Will was bent over on the couch and Duane was standing up. Like, it was in there.
Oh, we got it. Oh, we're black. I'm sorry.
What do you say about the allegations? There's like, like so many rumors. Anything you want to say?
We suing.
You ever wake up to your phone blowing up only to realize the entire internet is convinced they've just cracked the code on one of Hollywood's biggest open secrets? That's exactly what happened this week when Duane Martin's name started trending for all the wrong reasons. And this time, it wasn't just another round of baseless gossip. No, this was different. This was the moment where years of whispers, cryptic interviews, and half-buried allegations suddenly collided with fresh lawsuits, a former assistant's explosive claims, and one very telling reaction from Jada Pinkett Smith herself. We suing. 2 words that turned a scandal into a legal time bomb. And right at the center of it all, a resurfaced interview from Lisa Raye that's now being treated like a smoking gun, a former friend's graphic dressing room story that's too vivid to unsee, and a tape rumor that refuses to go away. This isn't just another celebrity rumor mill churn. This is the moment everything clicks into place. Or at least, that's what the internet wants you to believe.
Right, Jada was the woman that everybody wanted, and Will needed that validation to have that type of woman.
You saw her say.
Let's rewind just a little, because the way this story exploded wasn't some slow burn. It was a full-on detonation. 1 minute, Duane Martin is just another name in the long list of Will Smith's famous friends. The next, he's trending worldwide, his name tied to allegations so specific, so visually disturbing that even the most hardened gossip fans had to pause. Brother Bilal, Will Smith's former assistant and self-proclaimed best friend, didn't just drop a bombshell in his interview with Tasha K. He dropped a nuke. And the way he described what he allegedly walked in on, let's just say it wasn't the kind of detail you forget. I opened the door to Duane's dressing room, and that's when I see Duane having Will. It was a couch, and Will was bent over on the couch, and Duane was standing up. Him. It was in there. Now, pause for a second and let that sink in. This isn't some vague, they were close rumor. This is a man who claims he saw something so explicit, so aggressive, that the only word he could use to describe it was brutality. And the internet? Oh, they ran with it. But here's where it gets even messier, because this isn't the first time Will and Duane's names have been linked like this. No, this is a rumor that's had legs for decades, ever since the early 90s, when they met on the set of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and their friendship sparked whispers that never really went away.
Somehow within that relationship, I lost my husband to Duane Martin, and they became better friends than what me and my husband did, and I couldn't understand that for the love of God.
Back then, it was just Hollywood chatter, the kind of thing people rolled their eyes at because, well, Will was married to Jada, Duane was married to Tisha Campbell, and everyone knew how these things worked. Rumors fade. Careers move on. Except this time, the rumors didn't just resurface, they evolved. And the catalyst? A woman who's been quietly sitting on a powder keg of her own for years. Lisa Raye. Now, Lisa Raye isn't some random blogger or faceless Twitter account. She's an actress with a very public, very messy history with Duane Martin, one that involves her ex-husband, a former prime minister of Turks and Caicos, and accusations that Duane didn't just betray her, but actively worked to destroy her marriage from the inside. Somehow, within that relationship, I lost my husband to Duane Martin, and they became better friends than what me and my husband did. And I couldn't understand that for the love of God. He became disrespectful with introducing my husband to different women that we actually knew as friends and associates. Sound familiar? Because the internet sure thought so.
Duane Martin, for Lisa Raye, was a nemesis that was unbelievable. And he was someone that she trusted.
When those old clips started recirculating this week, it wasn't just as background noise. It was as evidence, proof that Duane had a pattern, proof that he played fast and loose with boundaries. And most damning of all, proof that maybe, just maybe, the rumors about him and Will weren't so far-fetched after all. But here's the kicker. Lisa Raye never said anything about Will Smith. Not directly. She didn't have to. Because the moment Brother Bilal's story went viral, the algorithm did what it does best. It connected the dots. And suddenly, Lisa's past interviews weren't just about her failed marriage. They were about a 3-way tape that may or may not exist, involving Duane, her ex-husband, and, you guessed it, Will Smith. Now, is there actual proof of this tape? No. But in the court of public opinion, proof isn't always necessary. All you need is a narrative that feels true. And when you've got a former assistant describing a scene so graphic it makes people wince, a scorned ex-wife's interviews resurfacing at the perfect moment, and a power couple like Will and Jada suddenly lawyering up, well, that's all the confirmation bias the internet needs. And speaking of Will and Jada, oh, they are not playing around this time.
Yeah, and let me just say this. It's ridiculous, right?
Because while the internet was busy dissecting Brother Bilal's claims and Lisa Raye's old sound bites, Jada Pinkett Smith did something she doesn't usually do. She got direct. no vague statements, no we don't comment on rumors deflection. Just 2 words, dropped casually to a street interviewer like it was nothing. We suing. Now, for those who followed the Smiths' drama over the years, that's not just a threat, that's a declaration of war. This is the same woman who spent years battling rumors about her marriage. From Will's alleged affair with Margot Robbie to her own entanglement with August Alsina, she's heard it all. But this wasn't just another tabloid headline. This was a former friend, someone who claimed to be family, allegedly trying to profit off the most salacious story possible. And Jada's response wasn't just about shutting it down, it was about sending a message. You want to play? Fine, let's play. But here's the thing no one's talking about. This isn't just about Will and Duane anymore.
A violinist is suing Will Smith, claiming retaliation after he alleges that he was fired for reporting harassment while on tour with Smith. Brian King Joseph filed the lawsuit in California earlier this week, accusing Smith of deliberately grooming him for sexual exploitation.
Because while the internet was busy dissecting the tape rumors and the dressing room allegations, another story was brewing. One that might just be the real reason the Smiths are so ready to fight back. Because just last month, in January 2026, Will Smith was hit with a workplace harassment lawsuit from a violinist named Brian King Joseph, who claimed that Will groomed him during his 2025 tour, left disturbing items in his hotel room, and then fired him when he spoke up. Now, on the surface, that might not seem connected to the Duane Martin drama. But in Hollywood, everything is connected. And when you've got a star like Will Smith, someone who's already been through the ringer with the Chris Rock slap, the Jada separation, the endless cheating rumors, suddenly facing not 1, but 2 major scandals at the same time, that's not a coincidence. That's a pattern. And patterns are what the internet leaves for. So let's talk about that lawsuit for a second, because this isn't just some random accusation. This is a bombshell.
Shocking allegations against Will Smith, a violinist who was a finalist on America's Got Talent and performed in Smith's band, is accusing the star of predatory.
Brian King Joseph didn't just claim that Will made him uncomfortable. He alleged that after performing with Will in December 2024, he was hired for the Based on a True Story tour, where things took a dark turn. According to the lawsuit, Will started spending a lot of one-on-one time with Brian, telling him things like, "You and I have such a special connection that I don't have with anyone else." Then, during the tour's first leg in Las Vegas, Brian claims he returned to his hotel room, one that was booked by Will's team, to find it had been entered, and not just entered, violated. There was a handwritten note addressed to him. "Brian, I'll be back no later 5:30, just us." A drawn heart, signed Stone F. And if that wasn't enough, there were wipes, a beer bottle, a red backpack, a bottle of HIV medication with someone else's name on it, an earring, and hospital discharge papers belonging to a stranger. Now, let's be real. If you came home to that, what would you think was about to happen? Brian sure knew, he reported it. And what did Will's team do? According to the lawsuit, they blamed him, then they fired him. And just like that, another name was added to the growing list of people who've accused Will Smith of crossing lines he shouldn't have. Now, Will's reps have denied these claims. Of course they have, but here's the problem. When you've got multiple people coming forward with stories that, while different in detail, all paint the same picture, of a man who operates in the gray areas of power, control, and secrecy, it starts to feel less like coincidence and more like a system. And in Hollywood, systems don't just happen, they're built. Which brings us back to Duane Martin. Because if Will's team is really gearing up for a legal fight, you better believe they're not just looking at Brother Bilal, they're looking at everyone. And Duane? He's not just a name in the headlines anymore. He's a liability, a man whose past is being dug up, whose marriages have ended in scandal, whose friendship with Will is now being framed as something far more sinister. And the worst part? He can't even defend himself without making it worse. Because in a world where a single resurfaced clip can turn you into the villain, silence isn't golden. It's guilty until proven innocent. And that's the real story here. It's not just about whether Will and Duane were involved. It's about how quickly a narrative can spiral out of control when you've got the right mix of old grudges, fresh lawsuits, and an internet that's desperate to believe the worst.
You need to find a way to make sure your wife ain't talking about your private business.
It's about how one man's allegations can suddenly make every past rumor feel like confirmation. It's about how power works in Hollywood, not just in the moments of scandal, but in the aftermath. Because right now, Will Smith isn't just fighting for his reputation. He's fighting for his career. And Duane Martin isn't just dealing with rumors. He's dealing with the very real possibility that his name might be permanently tied to one of the messiest scandals in years. And Lisa Raye? Oh, she's just sitting back, watching the chaos unfold, her old words now the foundation of a story she never even meant to tell. So here's the question no one's asking. What happens when the people who've spent years denying the whispers suddenly can't control the story anymore? What happens when the lawsuits start piling up, the tapes, real or not, become the focus of every conversation, and the only thing louder than the allegations is the silence from the people who know the truth? Because one thing's for sure, this isn't ending with a simple, he said, she said. This is the kind of scandal that doesn't just fade away. it metastasizes. And if the past week has taught us anything, it's that we haven't even seen the worst of it yet. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but where's the proof? And that's the thing. Proof doesn't matter anymore. Not when the story is this good. Not when the pieces fit together just well enough to make people want to believe. Because in the end, that's all this is, a story. A really, really good one. And the scariest part, we're only in the first act. Because if there's one thing Hollywood loves more than a scandal, it's a sequel. And trust me, this one's got plenty more scenes to go. So buckle up. Because the next move, that's when things get interesting. And something tells me we won't have to wait long. What if this wasn't an accident?
Bilal has filed a $3 million lawsuit against Jada, claiming that she basically threatened, it comes across like a threat, because...
What if the timing of all this, the resurfaced clips, the lawsuits, the cryptic threats, wasn't just the internet's chaotic luck, but something far more calculated? Because let's be real, in a town where reputations are currency and scandals are weapons, nothing happens by coincidence. Not when Lisa Raye's decade-old interviews suddenly flood timelines the same week brother Bilal drops his bombshell. Not when Jada Pinkett Smith casually mentions lawsuits like she's ordering coffee, while Will's team is scrambling to contain a workplace harassment case that reads like a bad Lifetime movie. And definitely not when Duane Martin, a man who spent years dodging these exact rumors, finds his name trending alongside phrases like three-way tape and grooming allegations. This isn't just a scandal. This is a strategy. And the question we should all be asking isn't what happened, it's who benefits. Let's start with the timing, because that's where the real story lives. Lisa Raye's interviews didn't just resurface, they were resurrected. And not by some random Twitter account, but by the same algorithmic forces that turn old drama into viral ammunition when the moment is right. Think about it. Brother Bilal drops his dressing room story, and within hours, clips of Lisa Raye talking about Duane destroying her marriage are everywhere. Coincidence? Or is someone making sure the dots connect? Because here's the thing about Hollywood. When you want to bury a story, you leak a bigger one. And when you want to control a story, you make sure the right pieces are in play before the first domino falls. So ask yourself, who had the most to gain from Duane Martin's name being dragged back into the spotlight right now? Was it Jada, deflecting from Will's growing legal troubles by letting an old rumor overshadow new ones? Was it Duane's own enemies, using Lisa's words as a way to paint him as the villain in a narrative he can't escape? Or, here's the kicker, was it Will himself, letting the orientation rumors fly because, let's face it, those allegations might just be easier to laugh off than the ones involving grooming, hotel rooms, and HIV medication? And speaking of Will, let's talk about the real scandal here, the one that's not getting enough attention because, well, an intimacy tape rumor is just so much more fun.
Getting fired or getting blamed or shamed or threatened or anything like that simply for reporting sexual misconduct or safety threats at work is not okay.
Brian King Joseph's lawsuit isn't just a legal headache. It's a pattern. Because if you look at the way this all unfolded, it starts to feel less like bad luck and more like a playbook. First, there's the hiring. Will brings Brian onto his tour, starts spending a lot of alone time with him, tells him they have a special connection. Then there's the hotel room incident. The note, the wipes, the medication, the earring. Items that don't just suggest someone was there, they suggest someone was planning something. And finally, there's the firing. The moment Brian speaks up, he's not just let go, he's shamed, his credibility attacked, his job handed to someone else like he never existed. Sound familiar? Because it should. It's the same script we've seen before. The private meetings, the sudden fall from grace, the whispers of special treatment that always seem to end in silence. And if that's not a system, what is? But here's where it gets even messier.
That Bilal says that Jada went up to him at a party back in November 2021 and said, if you keep talking about Will and about me, you're gonna catch a bullet. You're gonna catch a bullet.
Because while we're all focused on Will and Duane, there's another name lurking in the shadows of this story, one that's been tied to these kinds of allegations for years. Sean Diddy Combs. Now, why bring him up now? Because if you've been paying attention, you'll notice the eerie parallels between the way Will's scandals are unfolding and the way Diddy's own downfall played out. The freak-offs, the hotel room incidents, the young men brought into the inner circle, only to later claim they were exploited. Hell, even the language is the same. Special connections, private time, things we don't talk about. And let's not forget that Diddy's legal troubles didn't start with his arrest. They started with lawsuits. Lawsuits from people who claimed they were groomed, manipulated, silenced. Sound familiar? Now, we're not saying Will Smith is the next Diddy, but we are saying that in Hollywood, power operates in cycles. And right now, Will's cycle looks awfully familiar. Because when you've got multiple accusers, a history of rumors, and a wife who's suddenly very eager to shut things down, it starts to feel less like bad PR and more like a crisis management play. And if there's one thing we know about crisis management in this town, it's that the first rule is control the narrative. So, what if the intimacy tape rumors aren't just a distraction, but a diversion? What if the real story isn't about Will and Duane, but about the machine that protects men like them? Because let's be real. In a world where Diddy could allegedly run a human trafficking ring for years before anyone took it seriously, what's a little allegation between friends?
And then I saw sexual acts that I walked in on.
Who'd you walk in on?
Him and Duane Martin.
Because while everyone's busy dissecting his past, no one's asking the real question. Why him? Why is his name the one that keeps coming up? Is it because he's the weak link in this chain? The one who doesn't have Will's money or Jada's PR team to shield him? Or is it because he knows something? Something that makes him dangerous? Because let's not forget, Duane wasn't just Will's friend. He was his confidant, the guy he loaned $1.4 million to save his mansion. The guy who's been tied to him since the Fresh Prince days. If there's a tape, if there's anything, Duane's the one who'd know where the bodies are buried. And in a town where silence is the ultimate currency, that makes him either the most valuable player in this game or the most expendable. Now, let's talk about leverage, because that's what this is really about.
So I think the lawsuit is BS. I think the lawsuit's BS.
Yeah, it could be some sort of civil assault of some kind because he is a reasonable
there's no
fear.
assault
But
because she's
I don't
not.
really see.
She's saying she's not saying I'm going to do this. She's saying if you do X, I'll do Y.
It's also he's got huge statute of limitations problems. Not to get too nerdy forgetting about that. But I don't really see what the lawsuit is. But nevertheless, the allegations that he's made are pretty revealing. There's been a lot about sort of, their relationship and the fact that she's been very protective of him and
who holds it, who's using it, and who's about to lose it. Because right now, Jada's playing hardball. We suing isn't just a threat. It's a warning, a way of saying, we control this story. But here's the thing about lawsuits in Hollywood. They're not just about winning. They're about silencing. And if Jada's willing to go that far to shut Bilal up, what's she willing to do to Duane? Because let's not pretend this is just about an intimacy tape. This is about power. This is about who gets to decide what the public believes. And right now, the Smiths are making it very clear that they're not just going to let this story write itself. They're going to rewrite it. But here's the twist. What if Duane wants to be part of the narrative?
Hollywood is the hurry up and wait game. So
what if he's not the victim here, but the player? Because let's not forget, this man has spent years in the shadows of Will's fame. He's been the sidekick, the co-star, the guy who almost made it. And if there's one thing we know about Hollywood, it's that the people who stay quiet are the ones who lose. So what if Duane's silence isn't fear, it's strategy? What if he's waiting for the right moment to drop his own bomb? Because if there's one thing that could take Will Smith down for good, it's not a lawsuit, it's not a rumor, it's proof. And if that tape exists, well, let's just say Duane Martin might be the only one holding the match. And that's the part no one's talking about. Because while we're all busy arguing over whether Will's part of the rainbow community or straight, whether the tape is real or fake, we're missing the real story. This isn't about SX, it's about survival. It's about who gets to walk away from this with their career intact. And right now, the odds aren't looking good for anyone. Because in Hollywood, scandals don't just fade away, they evolve. And this one is just getting started. Now, let's talk about the other players in this game, the ones who aren't even in the headlines yet. Because if there's one thing we've learned from scandals like this, it's that the first wave of accusations is never the last. Remember when Harvey Weinstein's downfall started with a handful of stories? Remember how quickly the list grew? That's the thing about these kinds of scandals. They don't just implicate the main players, they expose the entire system. And if Will Smith is at the center of this one, you better believe there are others sweating right now. Because if Brian King Joseph's allegations are true, if Brother Bilal's story holds up, if any of this sticks, it's not just Will's career on the line, it's the careers of everyone who knew, everyone who looked the other way, everyone who benefited from the silence. And that's where the real fear comes in. Because in Hollywood, the biggest crime isn't what you do, it's what you let happen. And if Will Smith is going down, he won't be going alone. Because the one thing worse than being the villain, being the accomplice. And right now, there are a lot of people who fit that description. So let's bring it back to the tape.
No, that's 100% true. And you and I both know from a legal perspective to make a very public case and a very public claim against a high-profile celebrity when there are avenues in the law where someone could file a lawsuit anonymously. I'm not saying that's what your client wanted to do or not, but sometimes there's an avenue. That goes to a clear issue of credibility, and it goes to a clear issue of...
Because that's the real question here, isn't it? If this tape exists, if there's anything that proves even a fraction of these allegations, why hasn't it leaked yet? Because in 2026, in the age of hackers and deepfakes and revenge PORN, if there's one thing we know, it's that nothing stays hidden forever. So where is it? Who's sitting on it? And what are they waiting for? Because if there's one rule in Hollywood, it's this. The truth doesn't come out when you want it to. It comes out when someone else decides it's time. And right now, someone's holding all the cards. And that's the scariest part of all. Because this isn't just a story about Will Smith and Duane Martin. It's a story about power. About who has it, who loses it, and who's willing to destroy to keep it. And if there's one thing we know about power in this town, it's that it doesn't give up without a fight. So buckle up, because this is just the beginning. And the next move, well, let's just say it's coming. And when it does, it's going to be messy. Now, we want to hear from you. Do you think this tape exists? Or is this all just a carefully crafted distraction from the real scandals brewing behind the scenes? Drop your theories in the comments, because if there's one thing we know, it's that the truth is always stranger than fiction. And trust us, we're just getting started. Stay tuned, stay sharp, and remember, in Hollywood, the real show is always happening backstage. Until next time, keep your eyes open and your secrets closer, because you never know who's listening.